What exercises can you do to help boost your testosterone? I'm Dr. Rena Malik, urologist and pelvic surgeon, and today I have some very special guests who are going to help show you guys some great exercises that you can do that can not only help boost your testosterone, but help improve your weightlifting, strength training journey. I'm so excited about this. I'm a urologist. I never thought in my lifetime that I would be going and hanging out with people who are world record breaking powerlifting champions, the best of the best. So without further ado, today I am joined by Mark Bell. He is a world-ranked professional powerlifter and bodybuilder. He is the host of the Mark Bell Power Project, which if you have not checked out his podcast, please do. He's also on YouTube, and I will be on there, either already be on there or be on there shortly, as well as his co-host Nsima Inyang, who is a lifting coach, professional bodybuilder, as well as power lifter. And he today joined us to talk about rope training. Now, rope training is not very specific to boosting hormones, but it does help mobility and overall functional movement. And that's really important because when you're doing strength training, you can often find in the traditional ways that you become very stiff. And so this rope training allows you to maintain functional mobility in your spine, in your muscles, and continue to be able to lift for longer periods of time. And it's a lot harder than it looks. And Mark showed us exercises that you can easily do at home that can be done in short bursts throughout the day. And this is great because when you do really long, intense workouts, that can then create an increase in cortisol, which is your stress hormone, which then down-regulates testosterone. So these short workouts that are still very effective and taxing, because we need a little bit of stress to grow muscle and to help boost that testosterone, can also still do that without causing the negative effects on our hormones. So I hope you guys love this. I certainly did. And let me know if you want to see more content like this.
We already know about lifting in the gym, and everything in the gym is generally in the sagittal plane. It's moving like deadlifting. Everything is unilateral, right? So the thing that we're missing is we're not getting rotational movement, and we're not getting fluid movement. And the thing that benefits from the rope, it's like, let's say you start off with, actually something most people are gonna understand is this overhand pattern. So if you just put your hands like this, one over the other, grab the rope there, put one hand over the other. And then when you start swinging this overhand pattern, initially it'll feel like you're just swinging a rope around with your hands. But over time, one of the goals is to start getting your spine involved in that rotation. So you're gonna start to learn, and it won't be on day one, but you're gonna start learning how to leverage your spine to move this rope through space. So
yeah, there you go, you're moving your feet around and stuff, that's great.
Exactly, and a lot of people when they do rope flow, they think it's just a swing of a rope, but when you become better, you start naturally doing what you're doing right there, which is dispersing weight through both sides of the body. One thing that will be easy when you start off, and there's no rules to this. But the thing is when you start to keep consistency, you want to put your dominant hand over your non-dominant hand first. And now, if you're going to come forward this way, think about doing this. Like even if you go without the rope, try this real quick without the rope. Put your right over your left, or your left over right.
Sorry.
All right, right over left. Now come this side. Good, and come back. Do that figure eight pattern a few times. This is exactly what you're gonna be doing with that rope when you do that underhand pattern. This will stay on top the whole time, right? So, and don't worry, if you trip up, it's fine. When you grab the rope, keep that above. You can start here where you just keep it on one side, just keeping that right over the left. And you can, exactly. You can start, that's much better. And now you're feeling it.
Oh, you got it. Yep.
Yeah. And the underhand pattern, by the way, that pattern you're doing right now, this is the way we walk. The overhand pattern is kind of like a crawling pattern. The underhand pattern is our walking pattern. So if you like start, you're gonna feel natural with that pattern in a day or two. Right? You're gonna notice you're gonna like have better weight shifts when you're walking around.
Interesting. And you're so right. My legs are, like my feet are just moving on their own.
Exactly.
The weight of this, just kind of pulls you in certain directions. And for me, I'm not really great with like rotation, so I can have this rope kind of pull me back a little bit. And it's just gentle, it doesn't like push you or shove you into position too much.
And we're in the sun, so we're getting our circadian rhythm sort of set up for boosting our.
Yeah, how much of that do you
Hormones?
share with your
Yeah, I think
people?
it's really valuable to get some sun exposure because, to be honest, if you're indoors all day, you're getting artificial light. You never know what's daytime or nighttime. So
Yeah.
ideally, go out even for 2 minutes in the morning, and then if you can, at dusk,
Yep.
because that sort of helps your circadian rhythm, helps you sleep better, which is super important for your hormone health.
Like this particular machine, you're not going to see this in a lot of places, but belt squats are pretty prominent
Yeah.
at gyms that have some good equipment. So they should be able to find one somewhere. But if you can't, yeah, any type of squat's good. So all you're going to do is just stand up here like this, and that releases it. And now we're able to just drop the hips back and squat down.
Talk about form here. How far do you need to go to be effective?
Well, I think if you get into like studies, you know, and people studying like testosterone and stuff, for whatever particular reason, they'll say that you know, some of the studies they've done is where people were breaking parallel in the squat and producing like more testosterone or something like that. But I've never worried about depth. I'd rather people have a good focus on their technique and their form. And so I like to kind of push my hips back and just drop down to whatever feels comfortable for me, and then I just come back up. And for somebody else, that might look in here. Someone's 55 and just not feeling it, like they think they go down any further, they're gonna hurt themselves. I don't think there's anything wrong with doing a little shorter range of motion. And you hear people, you know, have a huge uproar about that and they get all upset, but
Yeah.
I don't think it's anything to worry about too much. I'd also advise you just to push your knees out a little bit as you come down. Yep, there you go. And if that range feels good for you,
Yeah.
that's a good range. And then for most people, maybe over time, maybe they progress to a deeper squat.
Yeah. In terms of, I think people always struggle, like, do we go to failure? How do I know I'm working hard enough? And so maybe give some insight on that.
Yeah, I would say, you know, so as a urologist and dealing with a lot of people that probably have erectile dysfunction and maybe they're like leaking energy in a bunch of different places, I would suggest that they don't really work themselves to failure. I would say have that be a progressive thing that maybe you do over time. I'd say in the beginning, maybe just get yourself close to those intensities. I personally found for myself, I've been able to build a lot of muscle without really, with brushing up next to failure, but it's more of a, to answer the question super directly, it's more of a technical limit. So once your form starts to go all weird or wonky, you actually want to discontinue the set, hopefully even before that happens.
Right.
But if you go to come up out of the bottom of a squat and your knee slams in and your back rounds, you know, that's definitely the end of that particular set. So this is super easy to do. This is just a slant board. And for some people, they might want to have their feet on the ground a little bit too. For others, if you want it to be more intense and to really put a lot of pressure and tension kind of in the knees, you can go up higher. But this is kind of like a Beyonce squat with the high heels. And you just try to come down and just go as low as you can. And I think what can make this fun for some people that maybe aren't as big into lifting is you can be drawn more to the mobility and the grace of the exercise rather than like the strength of the exercise. But we can easily make this harder by just, you know, holding some weight.
Right. All right.
And this is really great, again, for females, for people with kind of longer legs. Females typically have like a shorter torso, longer legs. And so when they go to squat, they're not like sure where the hell to move their legs.
Yeah.
And so just having the heels raised makes a huge difference.
I want to try a little higher.
Oh yeah,
and
don't
see.
go too high.
Not too high.
There you go,
How's
right there,
that,
yep. There you go.
Okay.
And so you want to go all the way down though. I would, yep.
Like you're almost sitting on the ground.
I would just go as far down as your body will
Allows?
actually
Okay.
allow you. I think you can go, yep, there you go.
That's great for your pelvic floor too. Getting a low, deep squat is really good for stretching and lengthening your pelvic floor.
The weight is actually nice too because it works as a counterbalance. So I can kind of push this weight out or up or move it around a little bit and I can kind of get even more of like a stretch out of it.
Yeah. And do that deep diaphragmatic breathing down there.
Yeah,
And you'll stretch out your pelvic floor.
I mean, not to get too personal, but you can do some Kegels down there too if you, you know, if I get a little training in there. Yeah, just a very simple way to train your legs.
And so this is probably pretty cheap to buy, right? These like little blocks.
Yeah,
To get at home?
and there's so many ways. There's also so many ways. I mean, that's available on my website, which is markbellslingshot.com. You can pick up one of those. You can get one from Ben Patrick, Knees Over Toes. But you can also just put your heels on like a 10-pound plate.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Some people will buy Olympic lifting shoes,
Yeah.
you know, if they're really get into fitness.
What is the benefit of those?
Those just put you up here.
Okay.
Those just kind of high heel, give you a high heel, which allows you to get like your squats down a little bit better.
Got it.
Great.
Cool.
So I'll take that guy from you.
Sure.
I think a really imperative thing to work is to figure out ways to work our lower back.
Yeah.
Lower back injuries, I think, are still, you know, like a huge medical concern. It's like millions and millions of dollars are spent on trying to figure out how to help people's lower backs. And you and I know some of the answers, especially you being a doctor, seeing so many people. Unfortunately, so many people are overweight. They gotten behind on their exercise and things of that nature. And so while it would be great for everyone to like lose a bunch of weight, we know that that's very difficult. But one thing that people can do very easily, and it's very manageable, it's very simple to change, and you'll see results quickly, is just to get stronger.
Yeah.
And you get stronger just by picking stuff up. We have these different sandbags. We got all kinds of different weights. And for people that maybe want to have a setup at their home, this can be fairly inexpensive. Like if you buy all the stuff that you see in this gym, you know, you're going to have a pretty big price tag, right? But a lot of this stuff is fairly inexpensive, easy to use. The way that I like to look at some of this stuff is it doesn't always have to be a full workout. If I had something like this, which I do, I have some things like this at my house, I sometimes just occasionally pick them up. Just do a couple reps, and then I'll go about my business, I'll go about my day. Maybe I'm driving here, and I go on a walk, and I do a podcast, stuff like that. So not everyone always has to look at everything as like an hour in the gym, I'm doing this like set exercise thing. I know for some people that might be convenient, but it doesn't have to be viewed that way. I think the way that I like to share fitness is for people to really microdose it into their lifestyle and to kind of sprinkle it in wherever they can get it. So if I'm like, I'm gonna pick this bag up vigorously for 30 seconds and I'm gonna do that for 2 sets and then I'm done, that's kind of cool.
And it's digestible. It's really easy to do.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, on your point about back pain, so I didn't know this. My husband's a PM&R doctor, which is physical medicine rehabilitation. And so I started having back pain and he's like, we're going to the gym. And I said, like, I as a doctor didn't realize that actually lifting and getting my muscles stronger was gonna alleviate my back pain. And immediately, as I got stronger, back pain went away, shoulder pain went away, all my pains went away. I have a labral tear, I've been lifting, and I don't have pain anymore. And so like I have been able to fix all these ailments just by going to the gym.
There's so many things to think about when we're talking about somebody having injuries. So if you have an injury, don't necessarily just go to the gym and train your back.
Right.
However, you do want to address like your movement patterns and you do want to figure out how to, at the very least, do body weight exercises. So things like lunges, the squats I just showed you, pushing a sled or pushing a, you know, we'll push the sled, we'll push the tank a little bit. I'll show you guys that in a moment. And then safely, you know, trying to pick up some weights, but I would pick up, when I say light weights, I'd pick up like 10 pounds, 20 pounds, you know, really pace yourself for wherever you're at. This thing's like 100 pounds. I'm obviously not gonna have you lift that, but I'm just gonna demonstrate and pick this up a couple times. So for me, this is gonna kind of force me to bend at the waist a lot. These are all things that you have to do in your day-to-day. You think about picking up your kids, or for me, maybe down the road someday, picking up my grandkids, things like that, or just picking up stuff off the floor, doing laundry, which I don't ever do. My wife always yells at me about it. But anyway, so you just stand over the bag, you get a wide base, you bend, You bend down, you pick it up, and you actually, the difference between this and a deadlift is you actually want to pick this up with your back. So that's where people are like, wait a second. Like, I thought my back's supposed to be really flat. Well, yeah, it's great to have your back to be flat sometimes, but there's some cases where our back can round, and it's okay to do it because these weights are going to be much lighter than what we might load up on a deadlift bar. So I'm here, just gonna let my arms be long. I'm gonna pick it up to here like this, and then, and for you guys that are looking for a little more oomph in the bedroom, to drive those hips through, flex the butt. So I'm gonna go here, I pick it up, put it on my lap, get my arms around it, give it a good squeeze, and then drive the hips through. And there you go. We're gonna throw that guy up here.
Okay.
Let me move this stuff out of your way here. Yep, and just toss it up there, whatever way you can. Good.
All right. You just do a bunch of those, right? Basically for like
Yep.
30 seconds or?
This is just like yard work.
Yeah.
You're like, shit, my dad was right. You can also, try to like scoop it up and then see if you can pull it to just get your arms underneath there.
Okay.
Give it a good rub. Yep, there you go. Good. So now there's like a little explosive component as well. Med ball stuff, tons of fun. Again, a great way to just have some stuff at home, you know, have a sandbag, have a med ball, you pick appropriate weights for yourself. You take this guy and you're mad at your kids and you do some med ball slams. Make sure every time you pick it up, you practice some good habits with the lower back. You can even throw a jump in there. So you go, grab the ball. There you go, give that a shot.
Oh, that's harder than it looks.
Yeah. The main thing, I should have instructed you a little bit better.
Yes.
My bad. The main thing with this is really be careful with this. This is gonna be where a lot of people get hurt because they're like overarch their back. So kind of keep the rib cage like down or neutral.
Yeah.
This can be like behind you or up here, but just carefully you don't like overarch the lower back. But when you come down, you wanna really drive your hands like towards your feet and really fold at the hips.
Okay.
Because the ball's not gonna bounce at all to you.
Got it.
So. Also with some med ball stuff, we can get into just a little bit of a twist. So I can just pick it up and give it a heave. So I go here and then walk towards it. It's just a way to get in some exercise where you're getting in some movement. Where now you're also getting in some steps.
Yeah.
So a lot of times in the gym, like I still use machines. I still do curls and overhead presses, but how many of those videos have you guys seen? So just trying to give you guys stuff that's a little different. It's fun to have stuff where it seems like you're just kind of playing around.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, really easy to do. Make sure you have enough space. You're not going to break the vase or whatever.
Yeah.
You know, on the other side.
Yeah, there you go, good. And if you're, you know, playing some sports, you're doing some golf or you're doing some pickleball or any of these kinds of things, a lot of these movements are going to really help you. You got a lot of rotational movements. We have a lot of, you know, explosive movements that we're doing.
Yeah.
Just to really try to mix things up. This guy right here is the tank. So I realize some of the stuff that we have in this gym is like specialized equipment, and this thing can be very expensive. But I know a lot of people that have these things at their house because they're that badass, and there's different versions of them. But this thing is great, and all you want to do is try to just get yourself in kind of a low position, and you're just going to push.
And you're on your toes. Is that purposeful?
Yep, you're on your toes and you're getting a really good stretch out of your calves.
Cool.
Go ahead and give it a try. This has a lot of variable resistance in it. This is working your glutes, your hamstrings, your calves.
Great for your testosterone.
Absolutely. I think, you know, one place where we really link up really well is this idea of like, you got to have good nutrition. We got to figure out a way to get that intact. I think we both understand how difficult the nutrition piece can be. So please, pretty please, with peanut butter and jelly on top, not too much peanut butter and jelly. Get in your exercise. Build out your exercise habit. Work on your energy out maybe first before you even really consider dropping your calories. The next place to go to is to have just sound nutrition. Let's just try to get rid of processed foods. You mentioned that on the podcast, right?
Yeah, it's unavoidable you're gonna have some, but pick correctly, right? Like protein powder is a processed food, but I use it because I think there's value in it. I think it's, according to protein and calories, it's pretty good for you when used appropriately. But you sometimes, you know, avoid the Rice Krispie treats and the Oreos and those really highly processed, hyper palatable foods. Those are going to cause weight gain, right? Very simply, and they're going to clog up your arteries and create issues with sexual function.
It just becomes very easy to overeat when we start to have hyper palatable foods. So processed foods, how bad are they? They're as bad as the habit that it creates. And it tends to, I would just simply say as Americans, we're addicted to food. And that's how we got into this crazy predicament that we're in. And so do your best to eat meat, vegetables, fruit. I think cottage cheese is amazing. I think yogurt's amazing. You don't have to be. I'm a meat-based person pretty much. For most meals, there's some sort of meat in everything that I eat, but I don't think everyone needs to eat like me. Everyone does need to find what's gonna work really well for them, something they can do over a long period of time, and really try to just get rid of those processed foods and work on exercising. Over time, you should slowly but surely be able to lose some weight, and to also, more so than just the weight loss, be healthier.
Yeah, and try your best to be as consistent as possible, right? It's 80% of the time, right? So that means 24-ish days of the month, try to be consistent. The other days, you know, it's impossible to be 100% consistent. Anyone who tells you they are is lying. So just do your best to stay consistent. Find foods that you enjoy that will help you meet your goals.
I think just getting your heart rate up. When I think of so many Americans, and probably a lot of people that are coming to you before they get the knowledge from you on what to do, probably many of them have really not got their heart rate above 110 or 120 for any consistent long-term basis. When we do that each and every day, in my opinion, we go kind of like through the body to get to the mind. And it does really amazing things for depression, anxiety, just making you feel better, just simply putting you in a better mood because you sort of revved your engine, so to speak. And when you do that over time, that's also going to be a heart-healthy practice. So we'll just go back and forth on this sled just a little bit. It has some variable resistance, so I'll knock it down a little bit. There's also way cheaper versions of a sled. Sometimes we just have the old school weighted sleds over there. There's even different versions of this, which are smaller, more compact home units. I think with your training, you know, sometimes what you're looking for is how do you get the most bang for your buck?
Yeah, absolutely. And doing things that you find fun. I think that's really important because you gotta look forward to working out.
And I do think it's great to go in the gym and do your leg extensions and your leg curls and to follow Dr. Mike Israetel and to bodybuild. Those things can be great. And if you enjoy those things, lean into them. That's a good thing. However, I think, you know, for myself, I've been lifting for so long. I started lifting when I was 12. I'm gonna be 48. So that's like a million years if I did my math correct. That's a very long time. And so, you know, given that scenario, it's like, yeah, I want to throw around med balls. I want to mess around with a kettlebell. I want my workouts to be different most of the time. And I'm not a powerlifter anymore, so I'm not responsible for just bench press, squat, deadlift.
Right.
I get to really mix it up.
But I think the other point to make is that sometimes the way you see improvement is by being consistent in your workout. So find a routine, find one that's going to help you meet your goals, and be consistent with it. Like at your stage, you can do different things every time, but I think when you're starting out, be consistent. Do the same exercises, see improvement.
It's a good point. Don't confuse yourself.
Right, progressive overload on those exercises, and as you start either feeling bored or you reach your max of that exercise, then you move to something new.
I'm going to show you something really simple, and this is something really simple anyone can do. You could do this on a lat pull down, which I'm going to show her today, but you can also do this with literally almost any exercise. And what we're going to do is we're going to do 4, 4, and 4. So we're going to do 4 repetitions. We're going to do the first 4 is going to have a 1-second pause. The second 4 is going to have a 2-second pause, and the last 4 you're just going through it. What does that do? Well, it's nothing magical. It's just a prescription to give you a certain time under tension. And hopefully when you're doing your exercises, you're learning to really feel the muscles and kind of squeeze the muscles. And over time, you'll develop some mastery. And when you go to do your curls, when you're more proficient, more efficient with your curls, and you learn how to flex your biceps better, or you learn how to flex your lats better, you won't have to do as many sets and as many reps and as much volume, because every single rep and set that you do is of higher quality. So in strength training and in hypertrophy training, it's talked about a lot. You have your frequency, your duration, your overall volume, your reps and your sets, your time under tension. There's all these different things, but sometimes what gets lost in the sauce is the quality. So we want really good quality, and maybe at first when you're new and you don't know what you're doing, maybe the quality is not going to be through the roof. But that's what goes back to what you were saying. Just work on being consistent. Maybe you have a routine, it's written out, 3 sets of 10, that you saw from, some influencer or whatever it is. You follow that for a few weeks, you get used to it, you start to learn the movements, and over time you become more efficient.
I think that's really important. The quality of the rep is probably more important than the number of sets. And you have to get a certain amount of volume to gain hypertrophy, which you can talk more about. But if you're doing quality sets, as you mentioned, you're going to be able to get that a lot faster.
And if you're newer, you really don't need a lot. Like if this is new for you, people have said in the strength community, they said moving around some rocks in a rock garden is going to make you stronger. So if stuff is new to you, just getting into the gym is going to be an improvement. So you don't have to really worry about it too much, but you do want, if you want to worry or hone in on anything, it's just a technique. So there's the first 4 reps. Here's the next 4 reps. Here's the last 4.
So, newbie question, this type of bar versus a traditional lat bar?
Yeah, they're all just, different hand positions. You can see we have a bunch of different bars. We got a bar that's like really thick. We have some of the bars go a little wider. It's all just to kind of hit a muscle from a different angle. I personally think that switching stuff up makes things more fun. But again, don't confuse yourself. You don't need to be too fancy with anything in the beginning. Just get your work in.
All right.
So I'll turn that the other way. You can see she's doing a good job of like really kind of lifting up the rib cage and really trying to get those shoulders kind of down. And then the last 4, we'll just be kind of repping it out. You guys will be shocked at how good this will feel, especially when you get the weight right. So we'll do a couple just to show you guys, because when you do find the right intensity, it makes a big difference. And the same thing goes for, you were mentioning on the podcast, about people doing what, 6 or 7 minute duration hit training, right? Mm-hmm. And what type of hit training? Do you know what
they didn't specify what type, but I think any sort of, probably 30-second on, a minute off, something like that.
So you could potentially do, 6 or 7 minutes of, high intensity work, 30 seconds on a bike, ski erg, but 30 seconds of pretty good intensity. We already showed the med ball stuff. We showed, picking up the sandbags. You can do any of these things. It could just be a quick hitter.
Yeah.
If you have a hill, if you live in an area that has hills or stairs, not everything always needs to be so crazy either. Well, even if you're more advanced, like find things that are repeatable, find things that are simple. Like it's great to have the higher intensity, and it's great to go and do the 7-minute, sprints or something like that at a higher intensity. But for some people that are newer, it might feel like a higher intensity just to walk a couple flights of stairs.
Right.
So really kind of just, see where you're at in your journey and then kind of judge it from there. Earlier in the video, you guys saw Insima, and obviously you're seeing myself. I'm around 220 pounds. Nsima's around 240 pounds. Building up your lats for you guys out there that are watching this, super important. Everyone's always trying to get skinny. I don't know how many women love the skinny. Maybe the good doctor here can tell us about that. But guys, you don't need to be skinny, but it would be nice if you worked on getting those shoulders to be a little wider. If you have a little fluff in the belly, people aren't going to notice as much if you're more pronounced through the shoulders. So you build out your back with exercises like this, build up your shoulders. You'll have that kind of V taper that everyone's kind of seeking, but I don't know, like I mean, to each their own, right? But I know from a guy perspective, I'm not super attracted to super skinny. What are some of your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I think in general, if you, from an evolutionary perspective, right, if you see somebody who has muscle, then they are strong, right? That's what it triggers in your brain. And then unconsciously, you're going to be attracted to that person because you're thinking their genes are better, right? Like if you procreate with that person, they're going to have, you're going to have strong babies, right? So, I mean, there's like a thought process behind why we think that certain things are attractive, right? And so I think that that's really it. But I think more than even appearances, strengthening your back is going to help you be able to do the activities of daily living when you get older. So when you're 80, 90 years old, you'll be able to get up off the couch, pick up your grandkids, put your suitcase up in the travel compartment, right? Like without assistance. And so the back is really important for that.
I think it's huge for you to be training, and it's huge for you to be fit. If I go and see someone like you and you're trying to gain my trust, and I'm like, the doctor, like, she didn't really say anything about like working out, and she didn't really seem to know much about nutrition. And it's like a totally different vibe, right?
Absolutely. And the issue is we're not taught much about this in medical school. Like we don't get any in-depth counseling on nutrition, and definitely not on training, right? Like, so your company says we'll tell you diet and exercise, and you're like, how? And if you don't have your own knowledge, right, you can't direct someone in the right way.
How'd you start learning some of this?
I think the nutrition stuff, a lot of it, to be honest, was through colleagues who were interested, through sources like yourself, people online who are knowledgeable and have expertise and credentials that make them, authoritative. And so you take a little bit from everybody and you sort of decide, what's going to work for you. And then I personally have a trainer, a virtual trainer that I work with, and
that's great.
I think that's helped me because it just tells me what to do. I don't have to think about it. I just show up, I go to the gym, I follow my plan, and I get feedback. And so I think that's really helpful in a lot of ways.
My wife was a Division I athlete in swimming. She's continued to swim, so she swims almost every morning or 4 or 5 days a week. And for herself, she was never really that much into weights. She wasn't that much into lifting weights, and she would do it here and there, and she kind of liked it, but she just couldn't fall into like a rhythm, which is very common for people. And what I found that ends up like syncing up with people is for them to just kind of buckle down and get a trainer or use a Peloton or use an app. And for my wife, the changing point was for her to start to use the Peloton app. And it started out with her just using the app.
Yeah.
So I think everyone thinks that you have to have the
bike,
treadmill or the bike, that you have to have something fancy, it's got to be expensive. But you could literally just have the app and and there's so many other apps out there.
And there's free workouts online all over the place. But I also started becoming very serious with Peloton during COVID. But before that, I was using ClassPass, which I don't know if it's available around the country, but it's a great way to like sample different types of workouts and do that.
Don't need hardly any equipment. I mean, you can select workouts that don't require any equipment, and you're doing like a squat on your couch and you're doing push-ups.
Yeah.
You know, on the ground, or and they'll show you how to scale it too, because then people are sometimes intimidated, like, I can't really do push-ups, right? It's okay. Like, they're going to show you most of the time, most of those apps, they're going to show you different ways. So I think just really trying to find something that clicks for you. What I really want to try to recommend and stress to everybody, this seems like so overwhelming and so daunting because you're talking about nutrition, which is a huge thing to undertake. And we're talking about like lifting, which is a huge thing to undertake. And we're talking about going outside. And you're like, I don't have time for these. But over time, things are going to shift and you'll actually become addicted. You'll become addicted to the healthier food. You'll become addicted to the sunlight. I do my best to suggest and recommend to people, do a couple 10-minute walks every day outside. Get some sunlight. Get some sunlight in the morning, afternoon, evening. I do realize that might be a chore, might not always be available for everybody, but just because you can't do it one day doesn't mean to put your hands up and give up on the next. And the same thing with your diet, and the same thing is true for your lifting. You miss a workout, not a big deal. You should have days off. You mess up on your diet, you eat a bunch of ice cream cake for your kid's birthday party or something like that. Awesome. You should enjoy some ice cream cake here and there. And so I think, it's a matter of just really trying to find what's going to click for you. If you're really at a loss and really can't get momentum, I think every single person has in their back pocket a crazy lunatic person that's a little bit like me, that they know, that's an uncle or cousin or like everyone has that fitness person in their life that's running marathons and doing all. You'd be shocked if you hit those people up and say, hey, could I come with you for your warm up and just jog with you? They would be over the moon to help you out. They would love to help you out in your journey. Obviously, you're not gonna be able to maybe keep up with them for the whole run, but maybe you can just do the warm up with them.
Yeah, and what I've been doing is when I meet my friends for dinner, I'll be like, let's meet for a walk first. And so we get some quality time where we're not like thinking about we're gonna order, eating, we're actually just having a conversation, getting some sun, getting some walk in, and then we go for dinner. And so I think it's an easy way to still socialize with people you care about and bring them along the journey with you.
Are you and I going to start the walking restaurant? Because I've had this idea for a long time.
Oh my God, that's a great idea.
So you put your order in, and then you don't get your food until you walked a couple laps.
I like that.
I think they got to see you walk by at least twice.
Yeah, that's
half a
not
mile
bad.
or so.
I like that.
Then you get your meal, and then you got to walk another half mile before you pay. I don't know.
I think before you get your meal, you'll get them to do it, but after, they might just leave you.
They're out of there. They're out of there.
Yeah.
All right, well, thank you so much for coming to the gym and showing us everything, and thank you so much for the podcast today.
Yeah, thank you so much for showing us some exercises. This has been really great.
All right, guys, let me know what you thought of this. Did you learn something new? Comment below so that I know what I can help you with. And guys, if you are enjoying my content, make sure you hit that little notification bell because I'm creating content all the time and you might miss out on something really great that I've put out because it gets buried into a whole ton of content on YouTube. And that way you can get notified that it's available for you to watch and put it on a playlist to watch later or watch it right then and there if you have time. And as always, remember to take care of yourself because you're worth it.